The Awakened King DLC for Remnant 2 has added a lot of unique and exciting items for players to hunt and play with, and most of these items can drastically influence a wide variety of builds. So I decided to make a list showcasing my top 10 recommended DLC items that I think are worth getting your hands on no matter what your playstyle is. Obviously, not all items made the cut, but there were a couple that were just on the fringe, so I decided to add them as honorable mentions. So let's get them out of the way before we jump into the best of the best. First is the Burden of the Departed Ring. This ring reduces total relic charges by 33%, but increases all damage dealt by 10%. The 10% damage it provides is indeed a nice bonus. However, this ring will often only be used by veteran players. Relic charges are limited in the early stages of the game, and beginners will surely need all the charges that they can get, particularly when adjusting to the game's mechanics, so reducing charges might not be a good idea if you're still learning to play the game, which is why it's not on the actual list itself. The other honorable mention is the Dried Clay Ring. What it does is it provides one permanent stack of Bulwark and grants an additional all damage bonus, depending on how many stacks of Bulwark you have. This is a nice bonus since you're kind of sacrificing DPS when building a tank. This ring fills the gap a little bit, ensuring you'll have at least some added damage bonus even if you prioritized survivability. The Dried Clay Ring can really work well with other damage reduction rings currently, so use it to your advantage. Coming in at number 10 on the list is the Creeping Mist mod. In terms of mods, I usually go for the ones that I can easily access and use simultaneously with other mods, and this is one of them. What it does is it shoots a canister that explodes and releases a deadly mist that covers a decent range. Enemies caught in it will receive 25% additional status effect damage and can be critically hit more easily. It is super easy to apply negative status effects in Remnant 2, with so many items and weapons possessing them, so a lot of people will find this mod useful, especially when creating builds that focus on inflicting negative status effects. At 9 on the list is the Gift of Melancholy Amulet. This amulet increases all damage dealt by 25% when stamina is at 100% for 7 seconds. What I usually do is pair it with a bisected ring, which negates stamina usage, so I basically have that 25% damage boost up all the time. I find this ring really useful when I'm running archetypes that rely on summons, since that 25% damage bonus is applied across the board, making them even more effective. Coming in at number 8 is the Whispering Marble Amulet. This amulet grants 3 stacks of Bulwark by just wearing it and increases all damage by 3% per stack of Bulwark. I find this a really good amulet when stacking up damage reduction. It can work well with rings such as the Dried Clay Ring that I just mentioned. Not only will you have that added Bulwark stack, but you'll also have an additional damage bonus on both the ring and amulet. Or perhaps another good combination is with a Soul Guard ring that can provide you additional stacks of Bulwark for each active summon you deploy. Moving on to number 7, which is the Burden of the Sciolist Ring. This increases mod and skill damage by 15%, but reduces ammo reserves by 25%, which can easily be disregarded by using ammo boxes. Not only will mod-focused Remnant 2 builds find this ring really strong, but the skill damage bonus is a great addition overall. Skill damage bonuses apply to archetype summons as well, so this ring will give you much flexibility. A Mutator secured the 6th spot on this list, which is the Tainted Blade Mutator. A huge chunk of this DLC is all about negative status effects anyway, so I find this Mutator really strong when using the Krell Axe. Thanks to the Mutator, you can effortlessly apply corroded and overload negative status effects on your targets. If you want to inflict multiple status effects, having these pairings will provide you with a good start. Coming in at number 5 is the Index of the Scribe Amulet. This amulet grants the wearer a flat 35% mod and skill weak spot damage bonus. 35% weak spot damage bonus is no joke, especially when playing with specific mods that can target an enemy weak spot, so this can find a home in many Remnant 2 builds. Pair this amulet with other rings that increase your mod damage further, and you'll be seeing huge numbers in terms of DPS. The additional skill weak spot damage is a nice bonus as well, especially when deploying archetype summons. However, it could be a hit or miss thing, since there are a lot of cases where summons can't hit enemy weak spots. The next item on the list is the Long Gun Monarch. Monarch is a unique and extremely fun weapon to use, as it shoots homing projectiles at targets when you activate its Harpoon mod. One of its unique features is the influence gauge. When it fills, this weapon automatically reloads and creates a shockwave. The wielder becomes enraged, gaining 20% increased damage and infinite reserves that last for 20 seconds. These projectiles can even penetrate targets, so you'll have some crowd control capabilities there. It is not game-breaking or broken in any sense, but it does provide a refreshing experience every time I play with it, so consider checking it out if you have not already. Coming in at number 3 is the Birthright of the Lost Amulet. Essentially, this amulet inflicts the status effect Exposed on enemies when the wearer successfully performs a perfect dodge. Exposed enemies will suffer 24% additional damage from all sources for 10 seconds. When playing a DPS build, you'll be dodging a lot of attacks anyway, so expect that you'll be continuously inflicting Exposed on enemies. Of course, I find this amulet very useful in boss fights, so you should definitely try this one if you're in need of a little extra damage, and you typically find yourself dodging anyway to avoid attacks. My second favorite item in the latest content is the Atonement Fold Ring. This ring will allow you to have a self-inflicted bleed status in exchange for an increase in critical hit chance by 10%. This ring is one of the best rings as it opens a lot of new amulet and ring combinations that can provide useful and strong effects to our builds. For instance, I mostly pair this ring with a Nightweaver's Grudge amulet if I want a huge critical hit chance increase and access to the haste buff on my builds. Another great ring that you can pair it with is the Hardcore Metal Band. By just wearing both of these rings, you'll have a permanent 5 stacks of Bulwark active. These are just a couple of examples of what this ring can do, but there are many more. Taking the number 1 spot on our list is the Sparkfire Shotgun. The Sparkfire Shotgun fires incendiary shells that apply burning to targets, which deals fire damage over time. Even without a mod or a mutator equipped, this thing can hit for a ton of damage. What is good about this weapon is you can increase its firepower by using another elemental mod, like for instance the Overflow mod, which can inflict an additional negative status ailment. Pair it with one of the latest mutators, which is the Fetid Wounds, and this beast can blast through enemies while also inflicting 3 unique negative status effects. This weapon has a huge amount of potential and is indeed one of the must-haves in the Awakened King. And there you have it. That is our list. I know there are a lot of great items that are not on this list, but these are my personal favorites so far, and I enjoyed experimenting with every one of them. What are your favorites? How are you enjoying the Awakened King DLC? Let us know in the comments below.